We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? I'm Tyler, and this is another film session edition of the Glory UGA podcast here on YouTube, brought to you by the great people at MyBookie. And today, on this video, I will be answering the question that I have gotten about 17,000 different times since the cocktail party went final on Saturday night. What is wrong with Carson Beck? We'll get to that. Trust me, we will. But first, let me remind you guys, if you are into hardcore Georgia football talk and you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel right now. Like, comment, all those things are a huge help as I continue to try to grow out this channel. And make sure to check out the Glory UJ podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Been running the podcast, the audio side of things for 10 years, just getting the YouTube channel started over the last 6 months or so. So you can check out a lot more coverage of Georgia football on the audio side of things. In this video, I am focusing on one particular aspect of that ugly win over Florida on Saturday. But on the latest full podcast episode on the audio side of things, you will find my full deep dive breakdown of that win over Florida. So make sure to check that out. But all right, Carson Beck, after yet another mystifyingly inconsistent performance, the latest, let's be real guys, the latest in a long line of such performances this season, on the heels of what I believe was a spectacular first full season as a starter that earned him accolades such as being considered a Heisman Trophy candidate coming into the season. On the short list at times throughout the offseason, the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. Talked about all offseason long as a first-round draft pick in the NFL draft and a potential number one overall NFL draft pick. On the heels of that performance a year ago, now coming into this year, all the hype, and then the way that he has performed through the first 8 games this season, no joke. I had gotten upwards near, I'd say about 100 or so questions since the game went final on Saturday, asking some variation of, hey man, what is going on with Carson Beck? And I'll be real with you guys, I'll own this. That's a question that earlier in the season, I more or less dismissed. The way I looked at it was, okay, has he made a few isolated bad decisions here and there? Yeah, but everyone does. And hey, not all the interceptions were his fault against Alabama, which is the first time we saw him throw 3 interceptions. That was the first time. Now we've seen it 3 times this season. You look at it and you say, okay, well, there's context there. We get behind early, not all that was his fault, so we're put into comeback mode and trying to force things. So maybe you can forgive that to a degree. But after this latest game against Florida, this latest performance, a game in which he threw 3 more interceptions. Again, 3rd time this season he has thrown 3 interceptions in a game. And these are 3 interceptions that I think were the most egregious of all the interceptions this season. And there have been some egregious ones. I think this performance was the most egregious. And it now makes an unthinkable 11 interceptions in his last 5 games after throwing only 6 interceptions total in 14 games as a first-year starter a year ago. So after that, it is clear now that the question of what is wrong with Carson Beck is 100% fair game. So to try to answer that question, I went to the tape, went back, pulled clips of all 11 interceptions that Carson has thrown this year, trying to answer that question that I have received so many times already this season. What is wrong with Carson Beck? So let's go ahead and go to the tape. All right, guys, let's go ahead and start diving into each one of these 11 interceptions. And let's start with the most recent game, which, of course, was Florida a couple days ago. And you're going to notice a theme here with all these interceptions from Florida. Really a couple of themes. Number one, all 3 of these interceptions are going to be off 4-man pass rushes. Carson Beck is not facing a blitz in any of these. Now, they're using some different pressure packages, but they're only bringing 4, and they're also able to get pressure on Carson Beck with a 4-man pass rush. I think that's important because when Carson's blitzed, he's actually pretty good because he knows where to go with the football. He knows where you're vulnerable based on where you're bringing the blitz from. He diagnoses that really well pre-snap and has answers for it. But when you get pressure on him with a 4-man rush, what are the answers? Because now you've got 7 dropped in coverage, you're closing windows, and Carson's not a creator, so if you're getting pressure from the 4-man rush, he loses his mind a little bit. He kind of sort of panics in a way. I hate to use that word, but it kind of seems like that's what's happening right now. So that's part 1 here. And let's go ahead and roll this clip and see what I'm talking about. See, 4-man rush. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, which means we got 7 in coverage back there. And you're going to see how it's not going to be a ton of pressure on Carson, but it's enough to affect him in this game. Just a little bit where he has to move. Now, honestly, I don't think Carson needed to move off his spot here. This is Carson kind of feeling pressure that's not really quite there. Like, why are you bailing right now? So he's bailing right now. Like, there's no pressure on you. You might think there's going to be pressure. Maybe nobody's open down the field, so you want to change the window a little bit. But Carson is he's a quarterback that works really well within the structure of our offense. That's what he does well. When he has a clean pocket, he's able to work within the elements of our offense, within the system. He's elite. But when he gets off that spot, when you can force him off the spot, or when he, in this case, forces himself off the spot and tries to be a creator, that's not what Carson Beck is. That's not where this guy excels. We need to try to keep him in the pocket. He needs to also stay in the pocket when there is a pocket there, which is the case right here. So I don't know what he's doing, panicking, and he thinks he sees a receiver, and he does, but what he fails to see here, as you'll see on the replay, is the linebacker who had spread out. So this is an inside linebacker right here, lined up on our running back because we've gone empty here. We've got 5 wide receiver or 5 out, and we've removed the linebacker from the box here. Now, if you had to do it with our quarterback, you just take off and run, but obviously we don't have that. And he sees man, and so he's assuming this linebacker is going to stay on this running back man coverage. What he does not anticipate is the linebacker sinking in underneath the comeback route that we are running behind the running back. See, Carson's kind of panicking. And see, if he's in the pocket, let's go back just a spot here. All right, if he stays in the pocket, if he stays on his spot right there, his eyes are here. He sees that this linebacker is kind of thinking about sinking under this route. But he's not in the pocket. He's running around, getting his head cut off, not keeping his eyes down the field whatsoever, and he just turns his head back around over here, glances, thinks he sees a receiver, and doesn't see this guy because he hadn't been in the pocket watching him, and the result is an interception. So this is just happy feet combined with poor decision-making by Carson Beck. All right, second one here. Once again, you're going to see a 4-man pass rush. They are not bringing more than 4. They drop 1, but they bring 4. And this time they do actually get in his face a little bit. It's not a ton of pressure, but it's enough. You can see he's kind of throwing off 1 foot there. He's not able to fully step into the football. And that's clearly enough to affect his decision-making. Because he throws the ball into triple coverage. That ball had 0 chance. I think this is the most egregious of all the interceptions that he's thrown maybe all year. Because this ball had 0 chance to be completed. And this is a throw that Carson Beck was not making a year ago. This is just poor decision-making. But I do think it's a function of him getting pressure in his face. And I want to go back to, look at this, guys. 1st and 10. We talked about this. 8 of the 11 interceptions that he's thrown this year have been on 1st or 2nd down. 5 of the 11, almost half of them have been on 1st down. This ball has no chance to be completed, and it didn't need to be thrown. Even if you get sacked here, Carson, which I don't think you're going to get sacked, just roll out of the pocket and throw the ball away, which you did a great job of last year. We know you can do it. We know you have it in you. Why are you forcing the football on 1st and 10 when you are in scoring range? You're not quite in the red zone, but you have an opportunity here to at least kick a field goal with the way that Peyton Woodring is kicking right now, knock on wood. You cannot throw this football. It did not need to be thrown at all, especially into triple coverage. Just take the sack or throw the ball away. You have a number of options here. But he goes with the option that is the one option that he simply could not do. Can't make that throw. One more angle here. Kind of from the end zone. Like, what? I have no words. How do you think that ball is possibly going to be completed? It's really inexplicable. Do you not see them, or are you just panicking there and losing your mind, and you're just like, I got to make a play. I'm trying to do something here real quick. I don't know, but regardless, that throw cannot be made. Plain and simple. Cannot be made. All right, and the last one against Florida. Now, this is the one where he did get like legit pressure in his face. He's about to get sacked here. But again, only a 4-man pass rush. We have a miscommunication here. Dylan Fairchild and Jared Wilson Do not pass off this very well at all. It's a very simple pressure. Here's what Carson did wrong. Now, it's not his fault this guy's in his face. Where Carson goes wrong is trying to throw the football. You aren't going to be able to get this ball off. Just go down. Just fall down the ground. Just fall down, tuck the football, live to fight another day. You don't want to give them the football at the 50-yard line. That's not what we want to do. A sack sucks. Turning the ball over the 50-yard line is even worse. When you, based on this field position, you have a chance to potentially pin them deep, even if you don't score on this drive and accept another score on the next drive. You can't throw the football. That's a horrible decision. This is what a first-year starter in his second game makes that decision. Like, if we put Gunnar Stockton in the game, that's the kind of decision I would expect him to make, not Carson Beck. It can't be done, man. It's just poor decision making. Now let's go back to Alabama. First 3-interception game of the year. This one, not on him. And I detailed this in the film session video, which you can go back and check out if you want to, post Alabama. This was not on Carson. This is on Arian Smith. You can see everyone. He checks into this screen. He sees zero pressure, right? He sees zero pressure. We got zero coverage. There's no deep safeties. He calls a screen. You're going to see block, and these guys, the offensive linemen, are all releasing. Arian Smith should be running a stop screen right here. Nope, he runs vertical. And Carson throws to a spot where Arian's supposed to be. Ball's picked. The rest is history. And you're going to see on the end zone angle here, I still can't get over this one, man. This is a touchdown. I mean, it's just what it is. 7 guys coming after you. If Arian Smith runs a screen, he gets the ball right here. You tell me he doesn't score? 10 100-meter speed? Yeah, he scores. Different game. It is what it is, man. Can't go back and change it. This one. This is a cover 3. This is just bad. Just bad by Carson. This is a really poor decision. First one was not on him. This one is. But I will say context here, and this is why after this game I wasn't as critical of Carson Beck. He wasn't great in that game. But when you're down 28-0, at this point 28-7, right before half, you're in comeback mode, man. It's a different animal. You're just trying to make plays. I get it here. It's 4 of those plays did not need to be made. This is 1st and 10 again, but you're down 21 points. You're trying to cut in their lead here, maybe get the ball to start the second half, get another score, and now all of a sudden it's a game. So I get why he's forcing it here against 4. There's no excuse for forcing those footballs. But still, this is a throw that can't be made, especially when you look back in retrospect and how the game closed out. Look how wide open you have the crosser here. Okay, so what we have right here is we have the slot receiver, Dominic Lovett. He's crossing. The idea behind this route is it's going to attract the attention of these underneath defenders, right? And so it's really a high-low read, more or less, for Carson Beck. If they bite on the crosser here, the underneath route, which is Dominic Lovett, then you have a route behind them that will be open. It clears out space. But if they don't bite on this and they sink under the intermediate route, which is what they're doing right here, you drop it off and let him pick up a couple yards after the play. It's first down, so now you're ahead. This is going to be open. It might be a first down. If not, it's 2nd and 3, 2nd and 2. And, hey, maybe you can put up a score right before half and change the dynamic of this football game. And nope, Carson is in comeback mode and makes a really poor decision here. Tries to spin to Arian Smith. But, as you'll see here, the great angle here, you got Jahad Campbell, who, again, is kind of the read here, right? If he bites on the underneath route, then you throw a dig route behind it. If he sinks on the dig route, which is what he's doing, you throw the underneath route. It's simple, man. And Carson does this routinely. He can do this. He does it all the time, but it's just inexplicable. Occasionally, here and there, from time to time, he loses his mind this season. That's the only way I can describe it. And he's staring right at it. You can't tell me he doesn't see it. I don't even know, man. Hard to explain. Now, this one, it's not a poor decision. It's the right decision. You got single high. They're playing off. You've got your number 1 contested catch guy, the artist formerly known as Colby Young, who used to be on our team. Not anymore. Well, kind of. Against their true freshman who's been susceptible to these kind of shots. And it's just a poor throw. He throws it too far inside. Tough to relive this. If you throw this football, a key right there, it's either completed or incomplete. There's no way that Brown can make a play on the football, but he doesn't. He throws it right here. Now, could Colby Young have fought more for the football? Maybe, but he's also kind of fallen back here, and he throws it where the DB can make a play on it. Carson just, man, the ball placement was elite last year. Has not been consistently. Has been good at times, but not consistently elite this year. This is maybe the prime example of that. All right, Mississippi State, a couple weeks later, not on him. Tip ball is what it is, sets up a score. This one I go back and forth on. It's hard to know who to put this on. Is it on Carson? Is it on Lucky? Without knowing the play and what they're asked to do. The way Carson reacted to this, it tells me it might be on Lucky, but then he could all just be playing that up. You don't really know. My take on this is that it's Lucky's probably supposed to cut that route off earlier and be underneath the defender, and Carson's thrown to a spot, but he didn't. But Carson, you got to be able to see that and see he I don't know. It's tough. You would think Carson would be able to see that and not throw the football there. So this one, you can put it on him. You can put it on Lucky. It's tough to know without really knowing the play call there. But Texas. Now this one, there is no misunderstanding here. This is just a poor decision by Carson. He got fooled. Carson doesn't usually get fooled. At least not much last year. But what they're doing here is they're running cover 3, okay? This is cover 3. Texas is bringing this safety down in the box, right? So you're going to have a single high look right here, drop, corners dropping, all right? You got cover 3. Now, Carson is running play action. Or usually, he's really good at play action, but it's going to be a very, very lazy play action fake. This guy's coming down and run. That's why you run cover 3. Get the safety and run support, right? Get another body in the box. You still kind of stay structurally intact in the back end. You're good, right? But Carson's play action fake here is so lazy that the safety, I think it's Barron, doesn't even remotely bite on it. And so he's like, all right, you're not handing that football off. Obviously, you're just going through the motions. I'm going to drift back and kind of rob the middle of the field. And Carson doesn't really see it. He assumes that he's going to bite off the play action since he's the box safety and he's going to have the middle of the field open, but not how it works out. So let's let it run. See how lazy that play action fake was? And so he just kind of robs the middle of the field. And they know, like they've watched tape. They know Carson Beck loves the dig route across the middle of the field. So he's like, oh, this is a lazy play action fake. I've seen this on tape a lot. He's not handing the ball off. I know where he's going. He's going to throw the dig route. So I'm going to drive right back there underneath it and pick the football off. Now this one, not a poor decision. Good decision. Probably should have been a touchdown. Just bad throw, which, again, we didn't really see much last year. Now, I will say in his defense, this is a throw last year. All right, Lawson Lucky, good player. He's not Brock Bowers. This is a play. If you watch this in this last replay here. Is that a tough ball to catch? Yes. Could Carson have put that ball on his numbers, place it better? Absolutely. So you can fault Carson here to a degree. Brock Bowers, however, vacuums that thing up, man. Like, and that's part of the issue here, too. It's not like Carson is not playing the same level. He's making way more poor decisions than he did last year. But he's also not having guys make the plays for him the way that guys like Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey did. So he's feeling he has to force it. I really think a big part of this is Carson Beck's like, I got to be the guy. Brock is gone. Ladd is gone. We have some good players at skill positions, but we're maybe not elite. I'm supposed to be the Heisman Trophy contender. I'm supposed to be the first-round draft pick at quarterback, maybe the number 1 overall draft pick, which that's out the window now. But he feels that, right? And so it's like, I got to be the guy. I got to show these NFL scouts what I can do. I got to be a playmaker as opposed to a facilitator, which I think he was really what he was last year. He was lethal in that role. And it caused him to force the issue a little too much. But that one could have been made, but he's also got to throw the ball with more accuracy. This one, I don't put on Carson. I put this one on Arian Smith. Arian's got to be where Carson expects him to be. Arian just got bullied at the top of the route on this one and did not get out of his break quick enough. He's just bullied here. That's a timing route. Carson expects him to be in a certain spot, and he was not there. Let's go back and watch it one more time here. He expects him to be here instead of here. He turns in. He probably should have turned out there, but that's almost a game-changing play, and that one's not on Carson Beck, although a lot of these are. So let's wrap it up here, guys. We got 5 of these 11 interceptions. By my count, I got 5 bad decisions. I've got all 3 against Florida were bad decisions. And that's why we're doing this video right now. It's been bad at times this year, but Florida was egregious. That was his most egregiously bad performance. I got 1 against Spam. The second interception against Spam, I would put 100% on him. The first interception against Texas when they're covering 3, he has a lazy play fake. Those are all 5 on him. Just bad decisions. 3 of them also on him, inaccurate throws. The last one to Lawson Lucky. Is it somewhat unlucky? Maybe, but I put that more on Carson Beck. I give him a better ball to catch. And then you've got 2 that I think are on the wide receivers, both on Arian Smith. And then you got 1 tip ball. So that's how I break down these 11 interceptions through the first 8 games for Carson Beck so far this season. So there you go, guys. It has been a series of frankly appalling decisions made by Carson Beck in recent weeks that, in my humble opinion, are the result of Carson feeling like he needs to don the Superman cape and carry this Georgia offense in the absence of playmakers like Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey that he had to lean on a year ago, feeling as though he needs to be the playmaker for this Georgia offense as opposed to the lethal facilitator that he was a year ago. So it's that, along with a dash of inaccuracy that we didn't really see much from him last year, that has brought us to this point where I am sitting here today, spending time that, quite frankly, I don't really have, putting this video together to talk about what's wrong with Carson Beck. But as bad as the decision-making has been at times, and it has been, guys, like we just went through every one of those 11 interceptions. It's been bad at times. But to be fair, we also have to recognize that it hasn't been all bad for Carson Beck in 2024. Let's not let our emotions get the best of us, guys. Let's not be prisoners of the moment. I'm with you. On Saturday, sitting there watching that game, I was losing my mind. It's like, Carson, what are you seeing? What are you doing? This is not who you are. What is happening right now? I'm right there with you. But when you take a step back, take a deep breath, and actually go back and watch the full replay a couple times, you see clearly, there are some bad decisions that he's got to eliminate. No question about it. He's got to eliminate it. But it's not all bad for Carson Beck. This idea that we're just, killing the guy and leaving him for dead, like a lot of fans did to Stetson Bennett back in the day, let's not forget that. I don't think that's the right route to take here. Let's be objective. Let's be objective. And being objective sometimes means you got to be critical, which we have been. But you also, being objective, have to look at what the guy's done well. And in fact, I would argue that while there's clearly been some questionable decision-making, and quite frankly, some just inexcusable decision-making, some unacceptable decision-making at times, I would argue there's still been far more good than bad with Carson Beck this season, and even in that Florida game in particular. It's just that the bad moments have been borderline catastrophic moments when you go back to the Alabama game and points in the Texas game, like driving to score points. You throw an interception on a ball that's just outside the fingertips of Lawson Lucky. And obviously the Florida game, giving him at least 10 points in that game and taking points off the board for us. The mistakes have been catastrophic, so they stand out in our mind, and we don't focus on the things that he does well as much as we focus on all the issues that he's had. So if I'm going to show you the bad, which we led with, because I know that's what's on everyone's mind right now, that was the genesis of all the questions that I got earlier this week, let's also go back to the tape real quick here and take a look at what Carson Beck is still doing really well in this Georgia offense. All right, guys, so let's look at the other side of things, and let's look at some of the things that Carson Beck is still very much doing well. It's not all bad. Kirby Smart said something in his post-game press conference, or I think it actually was his Monday press conference, when asked about Carson Beck, and he's exactly right. It's 5 to 6 decisions a game that he's making that are questionable, that are putting us in a bad spot, that right now are catastrophic. But the other 50, 60 decisions he's making, and even when he's not throwing the football, getting us on the right run play, he's making good decisions far more often than he is not. It's just the bad decisions have been extremely damaging to this Georgia offense. Let's watch here. Here's a good example on 3rd and 9. So big down here. Tie game, first quarter, trying to get off to a hot start here. 3rd and 9. They're playing off here. Carson is changing the play line of scrimmage. And this is where he excels. Like, he is very good pre-snap. He was good post-snap last year. He still is, by and large, good post-snap, just not all the time. But pre-snap, diagnosing what defenses are doing, he's got it, man. He sees this. He sees it right away. It's like, all right, we're checking in this play, and the result is a first down. That's big time by Carson Beck. That's a veteran quarterback. That's what you expect from him. Now, this play is great. Play action. Carson Beck's a leadoff play action. We need to do more of that. He's got a clean pocket here, which is one of the things we talked about with interceptions. When he has a clean pocket like this, it's not much stopping Carson Beck. He's not really making poor decisions and turn the ball over when he's got a pocket like this. In fact, I got some numbers for you here, guys. So PFF, when Carson has pressure versus when he's got a clean pocket, right? So when there's no pressure, when he's got a clean pocket to work from, Carson Beck has a 90 PFF grade, 71% completion percentage, 8.5 yards per attempt, only 1 interception every 34 pass attempts. When he is pressured, his PFF grade goes all the way down from 90 to 35. His completion percentage plummets from 71% to 36%. Yards per attempt goes from 8.5 to 4.9. His interceptions per attempt goes from 1 for every 34 attempts to 1 interception every 11 attempts. The picture is clear, guys. When Carson Beck has a clean pocket, the guy is extremely effective. When he doesn't, as I showed you earlier, so I was talking about on the first set of clips, when teams get pressure on him with a 4-man pass rush and they're able to drop 7, he doesn't have a clean pocket, that is when Carson Beck is really struggling. But in these situations when he's got a clean pocket, he's got no issues. And it's just a simple high-low read here. Go back and run it. So he's reading this defender right here. If this defender stops right here in the comeback, he's going to have the crossing route right there, be wide open. But this defender's going to sink. When he sinks, this is going to be wide open. And it's just a great play action shot. You see, I also want you to see on play action. Look at how the window is cleared. You don't have all the bodies. I showed you some of those interceptions earlier in the video. You saw there were a lot of bodies there in the middle of the field, like triple coverage. There's no chance to complete the football. When we were doing play action and operating within our structure there, these linebackers got to take steps towards line of scrimmage. And now that clears the middle of the field where Carson is usually very, very accurate, usually lethally so. And I think we got to do more of that. I think play action would be very helpful for Carson, much more of it. So great read again. He sees this guy dropping under the dig. You throw the comeback. Great read by Carson with a clean pocket. All right, later the game, fourth quarter, crunch time. Game is tied here, man. And this is beautiful. So they tied the game up. Florida is going to be bringing pressure from the field here. They're bringing pressure right here. So what Carson's doing pre-snap, again, he's still elite pre-snap. He's still very, very good there. Does a great job of getting us in the right play on a down-by-down basis. There's a lot to be said for that. Most quarterbacks in the country cannot do what Carson Beck is doing here. But he's going to diagnose the pressure's coming from. That's why he's really good off the blitz and not so much when they are bringing 4-man rushes and getting in his face. And he's going to change protection. He's going to put Cash Jones over here. And he's going to say, all right, we got to slide the protection this way. He also sees that they're playing inside leverage here on Arian Smith. So he's going to have Arian Smith run an out route here, playing off that inside leverage, and it's going to be wide open. This is a masterclass by Carson Beck. This is what we saw from Carson Beck on a regular basis last year. We're seeing it from him this year, just not as consistently maybe. But he's still good pre-snap. So he's changing the protection there. He sees where the pressure's coming from. He sees the inside leverage at the top. And he throws a really catchable ball here. He doesn't try to laser that ball in there. It's just, hey, man, get the ball out there and complete the football. Big time play. Huge play. 3rd and 7 there. Maybe we don't win the football game if we don't complete that. Maybe we do, but that was huge. See here again, they're playing inside leverage. Arian's going to run an out route off that. Good route by Arian. Love it. All right, now this play. So I told you earlier, Carson's not really a creator. He's not when he gets pressure in his face. But it doesn't mean that he can't be effective at times moving outside the pocket. I think he throws the ball really well on the run. I think we need to move the pocket with him more, to be honest with you. I think he does that really well. And it's an example of that. There's the difference here between the interceptions and this play is he's not panicking, right? There's a little bit of pressure, not a ton. It's more like he's just, nobody's open, so he's just trying to create time. But when he's able to keep his head downfield, keep his eyes downfield, and he's not panicking, he can create enough, and he can do some things outside the pocket. Again, he throws well on the run. Wish we would do a little bit more of that with him. But again here, good job by Lawson Lucky coming back to the football and giving Carson a target to throw to. But also good for Carson. Like, nobody's really open, so all right, let's extend. And you don't see Carson do that much, but he's got it within him. Now, this is huge, man. I don't know if we beat Texas without this. This place was, I was in the stadium, guys. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. Even at home, you probably hear the crowd. It was rocking. This is post that interception, crowd throwing stuff on the field. Now we're backed up inside, basically at our 10-yard line, 11-yard line. 3rd and 10. They got some really dynamic pass rushers. But again, look at Carson with a clean pocket. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that. With a clean pocket, the guy's still elite, man. With a clean pocket, I'm telling you, he's elite. It's when pressure is in his face where he loses his mind. And a lot of quarterbacks do, but Carson certainly has been guilty of that. But, man, this is crunch time. This is what you expect of your veteran quarterback, your former Heisman Trophy contender, former number 1 overall draft pick contender. Again, all that's out the window. But clean pocket, knows where to go with the football, and that's a frozen rope, man. That's a dime. Big time throw. Big time throw there. One more time. by Carson Beck. It's a money down. All right, guys. So that brings us to this. I know you probably don't know me that well. If you've been listening to the podcast for the last 10 years, maybe you do know me well. But if you're new to this channel, you probably aren't that familiar with me. But let me tell you something about myself. I'm a solutions-oriented kind of guy. That's what I am. I don't care for the troll culture. Maybe it's because I'm old now, man. I'm a child of the 90s. I do not care for this social media-generated troll culture that we have right now, where we're just content with bashing a guy just to bash a guy because it feels good in the moment and it's kind of fun and it's easier to punch down on somebody. Criticism is fair. Don't get me wrong. Criticism is fair, but trolling ain't my thing, man. That's not what I'm here to do. If we're going to criticize, let's make it constructive criticism. So let's do that. Let's think about this constructively right now. If Carson Beck, as I just showed you, still has the ability to play football for Georgia at the quarterback position at a very high level, but he isn't doing it as consistently as he needs to, and certainly as consistently as we would like him to, what's the answer? What's the answer? What is the solution here? What can the Georgia offensive staff do to help get the best out of Carson Beck, to help him eliminate these borderline and sometimes straight up catastrophic mistakes that he has been prone to making this year in a way that he just wasn't last year? In all honesty, I'm not sure that there is one perfect answer here, but this is my answer, right? So I'm putting this video together. So here's my one answer. Take it or leave it. Here's what I think Georgia needs to do offensively moving forward, not even back half, the last 4 games of the regular season, and hopefully possibly moving into the postseason college football playoff. In my opinion, the answer is the 2021 Georgia formula that led us to a national championship. Now, is our defense this year 2021 caliber? Of course not. But is it better than it was last year? I think so. Is it good enough that this team can lean on it to win football games against the best teams in the country? We've already seen that. We have evidence of it. We saw that against Texas. The offense didn't do much against Texas, but the defense played lights out. And we won that game on the back of that Georgia defense. So it doesn't have to be 2021 level. It just has to be good enough. And we've seen it do that against Clemson week 1, and we saw it against Texas a couple weeks ago. But if you look at where we are right now compared to where we were in 2021 offensively, guys, we ran the ball 58% of our offensive snaps back in 2021. You know where we're at right now? 43%. A Kirby Smart Georgia football offense is only running the ball on 43% of its offensive snaps. Now, a lot of that has to do with 2 things. Alabama kind of skewed those numbers, although it's skewing it less and less now as we get a larger sample size. It's not factoring in as much. But we basically had to abandon our offense and just throw the ball every single down against Alabama. That's part of it. And also, we're tagging a lot of our runs with RPOs now to try to keep away from running into stacked boxes and running into more favorable situations where we have a numbers advantage. But 43%, guys, that is different. That is a big gap between what we typically see from Kirby Smart offenses. Even last year, I thought we threw the ball a lot more than we typically have. And we still ran the ball 52% of the time last year. We were still slightly skewed towards the run. This year, we're heavily skewed towards the pass. So in my opinion, the answer moving down the road as early as this weekend against Ole Miss is we need to get back to running the football, a physical downhill running game and working play action off of that run game. That is the best way to help Carson Beck out, to help him get into more of a comfort level in this offense and to really allow us to help him eliminate some of those mistakes, those catastrophic mistakes that he continues to make. So why? I got a couple reasons here. Why do I think that we need to start running the football more, go back to that old school 2021 formula, great defense, physical ground game, play action shots down the field off that? Well, number one, when our offensive line is healthy, and I don't know if we're fully healthy right now, Tate Ratledge is back playing. Is he fully healthy? Probably not. I don't know what percent he's at. But when we are healthy or close to it, this offensive line is a better run blocking unit than it is a pass blocking unit. I do think there are some vulnerabilities, certainly at the edges in pass pro. We've seen more and more vulnerabilities on the interior in recent weeks. Now, I know the numbers say, hey, we're really good protecting the passer. A big part of that, because we're still not getting a lot of sacks, is that for all those reasons we want to criticize Carson Beck, one thing he still does really, really well is this guy diagnoses what the defense is trying to do pre-snap exceptionally well. He's an elite processor, typically even post-snap, but certainly pre-snap. So he's able to diagnose where pressure's coming from and he'll be able to get the ball out of his hands. He checks down really well. He knows where his outlets are if he chooses to take those outlets. So if you have a offensive line that is better in run blocking situations, I think that makes sense to maybe, I don't know, possibly lean on them and actually allow them to do what they do well. Number 2, matchups in the next 2 weeks. So Ole Miss this week and Tennessee next week. And these are, by the way, games that we have to win. We can afford to lose one of them probably. We'll see what happens with the college football playoff rankings on Tuesday. We can probably afford to lose one of them. But we need to win at least one of these games and not screw up against Georgia Tech. And those 2 games, Ole Miss and Tennessee, these are games against opponents that are elite up front. Elite. Clemson is awesome up front. Kentucky has a good defensive front, but man, Ole Miss is about as good as it gets in the country right now on that defensive front. Tennessee, not that far behind them. Both those teams can straight up play up front. And what we saw against Florida, as you saw in some of those clips, is Florida, who does not rush the passer well at all, guys. They do not. They're near the bottom of the SEC in sacks. If they could win at times with a 4-man rush, then you better believe that Ole Miss, with guys like Walter Nolan and J.J. Pegues, those guys, Ivy, they can win with a 4-man rush against this Georgia offensive line. Tennessee, with James Pierce Jr. and all those guys, they can win with a 4-man rush against this Georgia offensive line. And when they can win with a 4-man rush, as you saw with those clips, Carson Beck is not a creator. He's a guy that needs to operate within scheme, within the structure of our offense, with a clean pocket. If he has that, the guy is lethal. But when you can get pressure on him with a 4-man rush and don't have to bring pressure, when you have to bring extra bodies, he's much better against the blitz as he sees where the blitz is coming from and he has an answer for that. But if you can pressure him with the 4-man rush without bringing extra bodies, without actually having to generate pressure that way, well, that's harder for Carson because then he has to escape pressure. He has to be a creator, and that's not really Carson Beck's game. And when they are able to get pressure with 4, we've seen it. You saw it against Florida. He loses his mind sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes he just straight up loses his mind. It's the only way that you can explain it. And what running the ball does is, number 1, if we run it more, there's just fewer dropbacks, which means there's fewer opportunities for those elite defensive fronts to actually pressure him and force him into mistakes like we saw against Florida, like we saw against Texas, like we saw at times against Alabama. And it also slows down the pass rush. It keeps you out of third and long situations if you're able to run the ball effectively. Now, Ole Miss and Tennessee are both good stopping the run, so it's easier said than done, but I think we at least have to try. Number 3, Carson Beck, for all his faults and everything we want to play up right now, he is a surgeon off of play action. The guy is elite off of play action. And when is play action most effective? When you're actually running the football and effective at running the football. Get these numbers, guys. Carson Beck, according to Pro Football Focus, their qualitative stuff, take it with a grain of salt because they're not very transparent with how they grade these things. Their quantitative stuff, I put a lot more stock into it. So qualitatively, off of play action, Carson Beck has a 90 Pro Football Focus grade this year. He's completing 70% of his passes, 9.3 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. Only 1 of the 11 interceptions off of play action. Well, what about when he's operating without play action, just straight dropbacks? His PFF grade drops all the way down to 68 from 90. His completion percentage goes from 70 to 63. Yards per attempt goes from 9.3 to 7.1. He goes from 1 interception off of play action to 10 interceptions, throwing the football straight dropbacks with no play action. Clearly, Carson Beck is far more comfortable operating off of play action. So let's get the ground game going and make play action even more effective. And the reason why Carson Beck is so good off play action is he's really comfortable throwing to the middle of the field. That's where he's elite. That's where he was dynamic last year. That's where he was just like dicing teams apart, is the middle of the field. And what part of the field does play action open up the most? The middle of the field, because what it does is it affects the linebackers. They're going to take steps towards the line of scrimmage. It clears out space there in the 10 to 15 yard range, which is where Carson is just a straight up surgeon. It clears the picture for him. You don't have as many bodies there that he has to contend with trying to fit him around guys. It's a much clearer picture for him to work with. And then the final reason why I think we need to run the football more, get back to old school 2021 Georgia football formula, is that I don't know if we're straight up elite right now at running back. I know there's some running back depth issues. It looks like Trevor Etienne's going to try to give it a go this week. How effectively be, I don't know. But when you look at Georgia's skill talent this year, with all the suspensions and dismissals we had to deal with at wide receiver, injuries now with Anthony Evans, we're good at wide receiver. We're not bad. We don't have scrubs out there. We have some good players. But I think it's also fair to say that we are not elite at wide receiver. Our tight end play has gotten better. It has improved as the year has progressed. I like what I'm seeing from Benjamin Urosic. I thought he'd be much more effective in the passing game. It looks like we're starting to try to get him more involved in the passing game, which, by the way, play action will also allow that to be more effective as well with the tight ends, maybe using some 12 personnel, which we always like to do. But we're not elite at tight end right now. We don't have a Brock Bowers. We don't have those guys. So we're good at tight end. We're good at receiver, but we're not elite there. I think we are closest, if you're looking at all of our skill positions, I think we're closest to being elite in the backfield with Trevor Etienne and the young guy, Nate Frazier, who I know he's rough around the edges right now, guys, but the dude is just different. He is a threat to rip off a big play every single time he touches the football. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always an advocate of get the ball in the hands of your best playmakers. And right now, offensively, if you look at tight ends, receivers, running backs, to me, it's clear. Our running backs are the best playmakers on the team. And you can throw in Cash Jones there as well, certainly on third downs in the pass game. Get those guys more involved. Hand them the football. I know why we're tagging all these runs with RPOs, but sometimes you just got to run the football. And sometimes it's okay to run the ball in a stacked box. You don't want to do it time and time again, but when you have a quarterback like Carson Beck, who is really good pre-snap, getting us in the right play, as I showed you guys, when they do bring extra bodies in the box, he can change the direction of the run and get us into the correct run to neutralize the numbers advantage that the opponent is trying to get into the box by bringing guys from the second and third level closer to the line of scrimmage. And if we can do that, and you break the initial line of scrimmage there, they have more bodies in the line of scrimmage, that's when you break off chunk plays in the run game. That's when you create explosive running plays that can put 6 up on the board. You got guys like Nate Frazier and Trevor Etienne. So that is why I'm advocating the rest of the way going back to the 2021 Georgia football formula. Take some pressure off Carson Beck, get the ball in the hands of your best playmakers, allow your offensive line to do what they do best, in my opinion, which is run block, and also allow Carson Beck to operate in the middle of the field off of play action, which is clearly, based off what we saw last year and also this year, what he's most comfortable doing. So that's my opinion. Take it or leave it, but that's my vision for this Georgia offense moving forward. I know the coaches, they don't care what I'm saying, but hopefully they're seeing a lot of what I'm seeing on tape as well. But at the end of the day, guys, it comes down to Carson Beck. I'm sure the coaches are going to do some things to try to maybe take some stuff off his plate, take some pressure off him, and try to figure out what he feels comfortable with. I'm sure, I know that they are doing those things. But at the end of the day, it's all on Carson Beck to go out there, clear his head, and just play football. Make better decisions. Realize that he doesn't have to be Superman on every single play. Realize it's okay every now and then to take a sack. Is it ideal? No, of course not. But you know what? It's far more preferable than throwing an interception and giving Ole Miss the football in our territory where they can score points, or throwing a pick six, like we saw almost against, well, it wasn't a pick six against Texas, but it was close enough to a pick six against Texas. Changing the football game. Take the sack. Punting, we don't love it, but it's better than turning the football and putting together these catastrophic moments that are just crippling the Georgia offense. So it's up to Carson. How will he respond? I don't know, man. That's why we tune in every week to watch, but hopefully he responds in the right way. We'll just have to tune in on Saturday and see what happens, man. But all right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys checking out the show. Again, if you enjoyed this type of in-depth Georgia football content, make sure to subscribe to this channel right now. Like the video, comment, let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear from you. And most importantly, check out the Glory UGA podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, for a whole lot more coverage of Georgia football. This is just kind of a precursor of what I'm going to do later on this week on the audio side of things, breaking down the Georgia-Ole Miss matchup with the most in-depth, deep dive preview of that big Georgia-Ole Miss matchup. Make sure to check that out. We'll have that up for you guys. We'll end the week with our picks of the week and our official game predictions. You don't want to miss any of that. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. But thank you guys. Appreciate you. I'm Tyler. And as always, go Dogs.
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26 to 21. Dogs on top.